They excluded me from my mother-in-law's birthday dinner, so I canceled their lavish celebration. Have you ever been humiliated so deeply that it awakened a strength you never knew you had? That's exactly what happened to Anna, a woman who devoted her heart to a family that never truly accepted her. On her mother-in-law's grand birthday night in Rome, she realized her seat was missing. But what they didn't know was that she had the final move. This is the story of calm revenge, elegance, and power reclaimed. They excluded me from my mother-in-law's birthday dinner, so I canceled their lavish celebration. Don't forget to subscribe to USLA1 Stories, share the channel with your friends and relatives, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And now, I invite you and everyone to watch the video and listen to the story. The ancient city of Rome, a place where history whispers from every stone, became the unlikely stage for a drama that would redefine one woman's life. It began at my mother-in-law Eleanor's 70th birthday dinner, in a Michelin-starred restaurant high above the Eternal City, with the Colosseum bathed in the twilight glow. My seat was missing, a small, seemingly innocuous detail, yet it spoke volumes. My husband Shawn offered a dismissive chuckle. "Oops, guess we miscounted." The family tittered, a wave of poorly concealed satisfaction rippling through them. But in that moment, as humiliation threatened to engulf me, an eerie calm descended. "Seems I'm not family," I stated, my voice steady despite the seismic shift happening within my chest. Then, I turned and walked away. 30 minutes later, as the Caldwells settled into their evening of assumed triumph, they would discover the true cost of their callousness. I had cancelled the entire event, the magnificent venue, the bespoke catering, every luxurious detail I had meticulously arranged. Their faces, I imagined, would turn ghostly white. "Seems I'm not family," I would echo, my words hanging in the opulent Roman air, as 12 pairs of eyes would fix on me, their expressions a chilling mixture of shock and dawning horror. Shawn's light chuckle still echoed in my ears as I exited the restaurant, the burning sting of insult coursing through my veins. Yet, no tears fell. Instead, a peculiar resolve hardened my spirit. I pulled out my phone, opening the event management app that was the bedrock of my career. I had precisely 30 minutes before their elaborate charade would unravel, and that, I knew, was more than enough time. Before we delve deeper into this journey, let us pause to consider the quiet strength that often emerges when one finally recognizes their worth. If you too have felt like an outsider, marginalized and underestimated, then perhaps this story of reclamation will resonate. It is the narrative of Anna Morgan Caldwell, once Boston's premier event planner, now a woman discovering her true dignity amidst the ancient grandeur of Rome. 5 years prior, I was simply Anna Morgan, the self-made founder of Elite Affairs, Boston's most sought-after event planning company. Every elegant gala, every impeccably orchestrated corporate gathering, every society wedding bore the invisible mark of my dedication and meticulous eye. My reputation for discretion, unparalleled attention to detail, and the ability to conjure the impossible had made me indispensable to the city's elite. It was at a charity gala I'd organized for the Boston Children's Hospital that I met Shawn Caldwell. He was tall, with impeccably coiffed dark hair and a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, exuding the effortless confidence of someone who had never known want. He had that practiced charm common among men born into privilege, but there was also a genuine interest in my work. "So, you're the wizard behind all this?" he'd asked, gesturing to the transformed ballroom of the Four Seasons. "My mother has been trying to figure out who to hire for her charity function next month. I think I just found her answer." Pa. One event led to another, and soon I was regularly planning events for the Caldwells. They were Boston aristocracy, their old money tracing back generations to shipping and railroads. Their wealth was of a particular, understated variety, needing no flamboyant display. It was inherent in the subtle quality of their possessions, the quiet assurance with which they navigated their exclusive world. Our romance blossomed 6 months after I began working for his family. Shawn pursued me with the same determined focus he applied to his work at the family's investment firm. The warning signs, in hindsight, were abundant. Eleanor, Shawn's mother, regarded me with barely concealed disapproval when Shawn first introduced me as more than his event planner. There were the casual, often cutting, remarks about my humble beginnings, the thinly veiled surprise in people's voices when they discovered I was dating a Caldwell. "You've done well for yourself, Anna," Eleanor had purred during our first dinner as a couple, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Self-made success is so American. I chose to ignore these signals, for I was falling deeply in love with Shawn. He seemed different from his family, more open-minded, less fixated on lineage and status. When he proposed 11 months after our first date, I said yes, despite a persistent, nagging feeling that I was entering a world that would never truly accept me. The wedding, naturally, became the social event of the season. I, unable to entrust my own nuptials to another planner, orchestrated much of it myself. Eleanor, however, had an opinion on everything. The venue wasn't traditional enough, the menu too adventurous, the guest list inexplicably missing key society names. I compromised where I could, held firm where it mattered most to me. Shawn, ever the peacemaker, rarely directly contradicted his mother, a pattern I would come to understand all too well. After the wedding, the undermining grew more systematic, more insidious. Despite continuing to use my company for their events, the Caldwells consistently questioned my decisions, made last-minute changes, and, at family gatherings, took credit for my ideas. My professional background was dismissed as a charming hobby, rather than a testament to a thriving business. "Anna has such a good eye for these things," Eleanor would tell her friends, patting my hand condescendingly. "It's almost like having a personal party planner in the family." Shawn never defended me. He would shrug and later tell me, "That's just how mother is, you shouldn't take it personally." But it was deeply personal, and it only intensified with each passing year. The opportunity to plan Eleanor's 70th birthday in Rome should have been my crowning achievement. A week-long celebration in the Eternal City, culminating in a dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant overlooking the Colosseum. I immersed myself in creating the perfect event, leveraging every contact I had within the exclusive global hospitality industry. It was during this extensive planning that I first glimpsed the cracks beneath the Caldwell family's polished facade. Deposits for venues were delayed, vendors began calling, inquiring about overdue payments. When I confronted Shawn, he brushed it off, claiming the family accountant was merely being cautious with international transfers. But then, I saw the statements, accidentally left open on his laptop, investments gone sour, properties mortgaged to their hilt, lines of credit maxed out. The illustrious Caldwell fortune was dwindling fast. Yet, I continued planning, often using my own company's credit line to secure vital deposits. I told myself it was temporary, that Shawn would explain everything once the birthday celebration was behind us. Then came the morning of our flight to Rome. Shawn was in the shower when his phone pinged with a message. I had always respected his privacy, never checked his phone. But something, a premonition perhaps, compelled me to look that morning. The message preview from V was clear on his screen: "Can't wait to see you in Rome. Have you told her yet?" My fingers moved almost independently, opening the message thread with Vanessa Hughes, Shawn's college girlfriend, the woman his parents had always adored, the one they had expected him to marry before he met me. The messages stretched back months, detailing plans made, a future discussed, and yes, a baby, their times baby, due in 4 months. I took screenshots, forwarded them to myself, then meticulously deleted the evidence from his phone. I packed my bags, pasted on a flawless smile, and boarded the flight to Rome with my husband and his family. Standing outside that restaurant, the cold Roman air a stark contrast to the burning fire of betrayal within, I made my choice. I would not confront Shawn before the dinner. I would let their carefully laid plans unfold, and when they did, I would be ready. Our flight landed at Fiumicino Airport, just as the golden Italian sunset painted Rome's ancient skyline. I had arranged private transportation for the entire Caldwell entourage: Shawn's parents, Eleanor and Richard, his sister Melissa with her husband Grant, his brother Thomas with his wife Claire, and 2 sets of aunts and uncles. The convoy of sleek black Mercedes vans waiting at the terminal should have impressed them. Instead, Eleanor's first words stepping off the plane were, "I thought I'd specified the hotel cars, Anna. These seem rather generic." I bit my tongue, as I had countless times before. "The hotel had a scheduling issue, Eleanor. These are actually from Lux Transport. They service most of the diplomats in Rome." My explanation fell on deaf ears as she was already deep in conversation with Richard, their heads bent together in that conspiratorial way that always excluded me. The Hotel de Russie welcomed us with the 5-star treatment I had painstakingly arranged. Champagne flowed in the private lounge while bellhops whisked away our luggage. I had spent months securing the perfect accommodations, selecting suites with the best views, arranging welcome baskets filled with Italian delicacies, and planning personalized itineraries for each family member. Eleanor barely glanced at her bespoke schedule before setting it aside. "We'll just play it by ear," she declared, waving away weeks of careful planning. "The family knows Rome quite well." Our suite was magnificent, with a terrace overlooking the Spanish Steps, fresh flowers in every room, and a bottle of Shawn's favorite Brunello breathing on the sideboard. But the moment we entered, Shawn's phone buzzed, and he stepped onto the terrace, speaking in hushed tones. "Work?" I asked when he returned. "Just some investment issues," he replied, not meeting my eyes. "Let's get ready for dinner." The welcome dinner I'd planned at a charming trattoria in Trastevere became the first overt sign of my exclusion. Somehow, the seating arrangement shifted just before we arrived, and I found myself at the far end of the table, separated from Shawn by his cousin and aunt. Throughout the meal, inside jokes and shared memories of previous family trips to Italy, trips from which I'd been conspicuously absent, flew across the table. When I attempted to join the conversation about the week's planned activities, Melissa interrupted. "Oh, Anna, we've actually decided to do some family shopping tomorrow instead of the Vatican tour." "Family shopping?" I echoed, the surprise evident in my voice. "You know," Eleanor interjected smoothly, "just some tradition we have." "You'd be bored, dear. Why don't you use the time to check on the birthday arrangements? That's your expertise, after all." The pattern continued relentlessly over the next few days. I would wake to find Shawn already gone, a hastily scribbled note about meeting his father for breakfast. The family would disappear for hours on impromptu excursions that everyone seemed to know about except me. Whispered conversations in the hotel lobby would abruptly cease when I approached. Dinner reservations mysteriously changed to accommodate old friends who happened to be in Rome, friends who looked at me with barely disguised curiosity, as if assessing how I was handling the inevitable. On the third morning, a crucial opportunity presented itself. Shawn rushed to meet his brother, leaving his briefcase unlocked. The documents inside confirmed my worst fears: draft separation papers, prepared by the Caldwell family attorney, dated 2 months earlier. A proposed settlement offering a pittance compared to what I was legally entitled to. And most damning of all, a script, an actual script, outlining precisely how Shawn would announce our impending divorce at his mother's birthday dinner, presenting it as a mutual, amicable decision. My hands trembled as I photographed each page with my phone. There it was, in stark black and white, the perfect, stage-managed exit of the unsuitable wife, timed for maximum public impact, yet minimum social embarrassment for the Caldwells. Eleanor's birthday wasn't just a celebration. It was to be my public execution as a Caldwell. Instead of confronting Shawn, I channeled my burgeoning anger into methodical documentation. Each day, I made excuses to return to our suite alone, searching for more evidence. I found bank statements showing massive withdrawals to offshore accounts, email printouts discussing the liquidation of assets before the situation becomes public, and a chilling handwritten note from Eleanor to Shawn. "Once this unpleasantness with Anna is behind us, Vanessa will be welcomed back properly." My professional mask remained firmly in place as I continued overseeing the birthday preparations. I confirmed floral arrangements, met with the restaurant manager, approved the custom menu cards, all while quietly collecting digital breadcrumbs of the Caldwells' rapidly crumbling financial house of cards. When anyone inquired why I seemed distracted, I blamed last-minute event details. In reality, I was building my arsenal. The morning of Eleanor's birthday dawned bright and clear. I woke early, slipping out of bed without disturbing Shawn. The day's schedule was packed: a private morning tour of the Borghese Gallery, lunch at a vineyard outside the city, then back to the hotel to prepare for the evening's grand dinner. As the event planner, I needed to arrive at the restaurant early to ensure everything was absolutely perfect. I was in the hotel's business center, printing final confirmations, when I overheard Eleanor's imperious voice from the adjacent concierge desk. The dividing wall was thin, and her tone carried clearly. "There will be 12 seats, not 13, she instructed someone over the phone. "I don't care what the original reservation says. The seating chart I sent is final." "No, that won't be a problem. The arrangement has been discussed with my son. His wife will not be staying for the dinner." A family matter, you understand. No need for questions when she leaves. My blood turned to ice as the pieces clicked into place. The missing seat wasn't an oversight or a last-minute adjustment. It was the centerpiece of their plan, a public humiliation meticulously designed to make my exit look like my choice, rather than their orchestration. I closed my laptop, gathered my papers, and walked to the elevator with measured steps. Inside, I pulled out my phone and began making a new set of arrangements. If the Caldwells wanted a memorable birthday dinner, I would ensure it was unforgettable, just not in the way they had planned. I arrived at Aroma Restaurant an hour before the other guests, as any conscientious event planner would. The rooftop venue offered a breathtaking panoramic view of the Coliseum, now bathed in the glorious amber glow of the setting Sunday. I personally inspected every detail, from the hand-calligraphed place cards to the elegant arrangement of Eleanor's favorite white peonies and roses. The champagne was chilling perfectly, the 7-course tasting menu confirmed, and the 3-tiered birthday cake was a masterpiece of Italian craftsmanship. Is everything to your satisfaction, Signora Caldwell? Marco, the maitre d', inquired. Perfect, I replied, a bittersweet truth, knowing it would be the very last event I would ever plan for the Caldwells. Despite everything, my professional pride demanded nothing less than excellence. I returned to the hotel to change into the midnight blue Valentino gown I had purchased specifically for this evening. As I applied my makeup with steady hands, I studied my reflection. 5 years of striving to fit into a world determined to reject me had taken its toll. But not in the way the Caldwells might have hoped. Instead of breaking me, their relentless cruelty had forged a steel resolve within. The Caldwell family had arranged to meet in the hotel lobby before departing together for the restaurant. I arrived precisely on time to find them all waiting, Eleanor, resplendent in Chanel, her diamond necklace catching the light. Shawn's eyes widened slightly when he saw me, perhaps remembering what had once attracted him to me, or perhaps calculating how soon he could be free. Anna, darling, you look lovely, Eleanor purred, air kissing near my cheeks. We're just waiting for the cars. The drive to the restaurant was short, filled with artificial chatter about the day's activities, from which I had been meticulously excluded. As we ascended in the elevator to the rooftop, Shawn placed his hand at the small of my back, a gesture that once felt intimate, but now seemed performative, for the benefit of the elevator attendant. The doors opened to reveal the stunning terrace I had designed, now transformed into an elegant dining space under the stars. The Coliseum stood illuminated against the night sky, a stark testament to both grandeur and the inevitable fall of empires. How fitting! Eleanor entered first, greeted with enthusiastic applause from waiting family members. One by one, everyone moved toward the large round table I had specified, a table that should have seated 13. I followed behind Shawn, who moved purposefully toward his assigned seat next to his mother. I approached, searching for the spot where my place card should have been, only to find nothing. No chair. No place setting. No acknowledgement that I even existed. For a moment, I stood frozen, the perfect tableau of feigned confusion unfolding around me. Conversations continued as everyone settled into their seats, studiously avoiding my gaze. The wait staff, who had confirmed the seating with me just hours earlier, looked uncomfortable but remained silent. Is something wrong, Eleanor? I asked innocently, my voice carrying just enough to draw everyone's attention. There seems to be a mistake, I continued, my voice calmer than I felt. My place setting is missing. The meticulously choreographed scene unfolded exactly as they had planned. Furrowed brows, exchanged glances. Shawn half rising from his chair, a performance of concern that never quite reached his eyes. That's odd, Melissa said, examining the table. Did someone count wrong? Richard cleared his throat. Perhaps there was a miscommunication with the restaurant staff. Then came Shawn's line, delivered with a practiced casualness that made my skin crawl. He actually chuckled and said, "Oops, guess we miscounted." The family laughed, not boisterously, which would have been too obvious, but with the gentle amusement of people sharing a knowing inside joke. In that moment, I saw it all with perfect clarity. The calculated humiliation, the public setting chosen to prevent a scene, the groundwork for stories they would tell later about poor Anna who couldn't handle the pressure of Caldwell family life. My gaze moved slowly around the table, taking in each face. Eleanor, triumphant behind her birthday smile. Richard, uncomfortable but complicit. Melissa and Thomas, enjoying the spectacle, their spouses aware enough of the cruelty to look slightly ashamed, but not enough to object. And Shawn, my husband, the man who had once promised to stand by me against the world, now watching me with detached curiosity, like a scientist observing an experiment. I could have created a scene. I could have demanded a chair, exposed their vile plan in front of the waitstaff, made the kind of public display that would live in family lore for generations. That's what they expected, what they had prepared for. Eleanor would comfort Shawn over his unstable wife, and the divorce narrative would write itself. Instead, I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and delivered the 4 words that would begin my reclamation of power. Seems I'm not family. Simple, devastating in their truth. The smiles faltered. Shawn's smug expression shifted to uncertainty. I had departed from their script. I'll see myself out, I added, turning away with the dignity that had been my armor throughout my marriage. Anna, don't be dramatic. Shawn called after me, another line from their playbook. We can fix this. I didn't respond. I walked through the restaurant, nodding politely to the staff who had witnessed my humiliation. In the elevator, I finally allowed myself a deep breath, then another. By the time I reached the street, my hands had stopped shaking. A small cafe across from the restaurant offered the perfect vantage point. I ordered an espresso and pulled out my phone. This was the moment I'd prepared for. The 30 minutes of freedom while the Caldwells congratulated themselves on their successful ejection of the unsuitable wife. First, I sent a prepared email to Marco, the restaurant manager, with instructions that had been agreed upon as a surprise contingency, a common practice in high-level event planning. Attached was proof of my authority as the account holder and event coordinator, along with confirmation of immediate payment reversal. Next came the calls. To the vineyard scheduled for tomorrow's lunch, the private Vatican guide for the following day, the yacht captain for the Amalfi Coast excursion, the villa in Tuscany for the final weekend. One by one, I canceled everything, transferring the deposits I'd made with my own company's credit line back to my business account. With each cancellation, I felt lighter, unburdened. The emails from Shawn began arriving, first annoyed, then confused, then increasingly desperate as my tactics became clear. I ignored them all. 28 minutes after I had walked out of the restaurant, I finished my espresso and paid the bill. It was time for the final act. I stood, smoothed my Valentino gown, and walked back across the street to witness the moment when Eleanor Caldwell's perfect birthday celebration crumbled around her. I entered a Roma restaurant through the service entrance, a route I had familiarized myself with during my earlier inspection. Marco, the restaurant manager, met me with a concerned expression. Signora Caldwell, are you certain about this? It is most unusual. I'm absolutely certain, Marco, and I appreciate your discretion. I handed him a sealed envelope. This contains proof of the payment reversals and the cancellation of my company's guarantee for tonight's expenses. As we discussed, the Caldwells will need to provide a new method of payment to continue their dinner. Marco nodded solemnly. In the events world, relationships were everything. I had worked with Marco on 3 previous occasions for other Boston clients visiting Rome. He owed me favors, and while he might find my request peculiar, professional courtesy dictated he comply. When should I inform them? He asked. I'll text you in 5 minutes. I'd like to observe from somewhere discreet. He guided me to a small alcove near the kitchen entrance with a perfect view of the Caldwell table. They were in the middle of toasting Eleanor, champagne flutes raised high, faces glowing with self-satisfaction. The first course had just been served, the imported Ocietra caviar that Eleanor had specifically requested. It had been almost too easy to dismantle Eleanor's birthday week. Most high-end vendors in the global hospitality industry operate within a network of mutual trust and references. As the event planner who had made all the arrangements and whose company credit line had secured the deposits, I held all the authority to make changes. The digital trail of emails, contracts, and payment authorizations all bore my name and signature, not Eleanor's or Shawn's. My phone vibrated, a new message from Shawn. Anna, where are you? Stop being childish and come back. Then another, Mother is upset. You're embarrassing yourself. I didn't respond. Instead, I texted Carmen at the Villa Borghese, where the family was scheduled to stay for the Tuscany leg of the trip. Carmen confirmed the cancellation and wished me well. adding that my substantial tip to her staff would be refunded separately to my business account. My phone vibrated again with messages from Shawn, now arriving in rapid succession. The hotel just called. They said our reservation for tomorrow night is cancelled. What are you doing, Anna? This is ridiculous. Call me immediately. This is not funny, fix this now. I texted Marco. You may proceed. From my hidden vantage point, I watched as Marco approached the table with 2 other staff members. He leaned down to speak quietly to Richard, who was seated at the head of the table opposite Eleanor. The family continued eating, initially paying little attention to the interruption. Richard's expression changed first from polite interest to confusion, then alarm. He pulled out his wallet, speaking more animatedly to Marco. The manager shook his head apologetically, showing Richard something on a tablet. By now, the entire table had noticed the disruption. Eleanor set down her fork, her regal posture betraying the first hints of tension. Shawn was staring at his phone, presumably reading my latest text, explaining exactly what I had done. All deposits have been returned to my company account. All arrangements for the week cancelled. Your family's financial issues are about to become very public. Enjoy your caviar. The scene unfolded like a perfectly choreographed ballet of chaos. Richard stood, his face flushed with anger or embarrassment, perhaps both. Eleanor's hand flew to her diamond necklace, clutching it as if for support. Melissa was frantically whispering to her husband. Thomas pulled out his phone, presumably trying to verify what was happening. And Shawn sat frozen, his face drained of color. Unlike the others, he understood the full implications. He knew what I had discovered about their precarious finances. He knew what would happen if his mother's society friends learned that the Caldwells could no longer cover a dinner bill, let alone maintain their lavish lifestyle. My phone rang. Shawn, calling now, not texting. I declined the call and watched as he stood abruptly from the table, nearly knocking over his chair, as he stepped away to try again. This time, I answered. Anna, he hissed, his voice a mixture of fury and panic. What the hell do you think you're doing? Seems I'm not family, I repeated calmly. So I'm not responsible for family celebrations. You need to fix this right now. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for my mother? For all of us. I have exactly the idea, Shawn. That was the point. Where are you? His voice changed, desperation creeping in. We need to talk. I can explain about Vanessa. About everything. I'm sure you can, I countered. The problem is, I've seen the financial statements, Shawn. I've seen the emails. I know the Caldwell empire is crumbling. And I know you've been hiding assets offshore before filing for divorce. His sharp intake of breath confirmed what I already knew. He never expected me to discover these things. He had underestimated me, just as his family had from the very beginning. Those were private. Yes, they were. Just like the text messages from Vanessa about the baby. Just like the script for announcing our divorce at your mother's birthday dinner. Just like the seating arrangement deliberately excluding me. Silence on the line. In the restaurant, I could see the manager now speaking to the entire table. Several other diners were watching with undisguised interest. The Caldwells' humiliation was becoming a public spectacle, exactly what they had planned for me. Anna, please. Shawn's voice had lost all its aristocratic confidence. You don't understand what this will do to us. I understand perfectly. That's why I did it. We can work this out. Come back to the hotel. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. No, Shawn. I don't think we can work this out. I ended the call and stepped out from my hiding place. It was time for my final appearance as a Caldwell. As I approached the table, 12 pairs of eyes turned to me, some angry, some fearful, all disbelieving. Eleanor spoke first, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. How dare you ruin my birthday? I smiled, feeling a strange, profound sense of calm. I learned from the best, Eleanor. After all, isn't this exactly what you planned for me? A public humiliation, an orchestrated exit. The only difference is I changed the ending. Richard stood. This is outrageous. You had no right. I had every right. I interrupted, my voice clear and unwavering. Every contract, every reservation, every arrangement was in my name or my company's name. I simply adjusted the plans. Steed. You'll regret this, Melissa spat. When Shawn divorces you, you'll get nothing. That's where you're wrong. I replied, looking directly at Shawn. I have copies of everything, the offshore accounts, the hidden assets, the fraudulent business dealings. I'm sure the IRS will find it all fascinating. Their faces turned ghostly white as the implications sank in. In that moment, I felt no triumph, no vindication, only a profound sense of liberation as I turned and walked away from the Caldwell family for the very last time. I left Italy the next morning, upgrading myself to first class on a direct flight to Boston using points I'd accumulated planning the Caldwell's previous vacations. The irony was not lost on me. Behind me, I left a family in crisis, their carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. Through the hotel concierge, I learned that the Caldwells had paid for their dinner with Eleanor's vintage Bulgari bracelet as collateral until a wire transfer could be arranged. By morning, word had spread through Rome's high-end hospitality network that the illustrious American family was having payment difficulties. The remaining vendors I hadn't personally canceled began requesting upfront payments rather than promises. My phone was flooded with messages, some threatening, others pleading. I read them during my layover in London, sipping Earl Grey tea in the British Airways lounge. Richard, this is actionable. Our lawyers will be in touch. Melissa, you've made the biggest mistake of your life. Thomas, did you really think you could humiliate our family without consequences? Eleanor's message was the most revealing. I always knew you were common. This vindictive display only proves what I've said from the beginning. But it was the succession of messages from Shawn that told the real story of a family in free fall. First, you have no idea what you've done. My father had a minor heart episode. Is that what you wanted? Then, the Prescotts and Whitmores saw everything. Do you know what this means for our standing? Later, the hotel is demanding payment for the entire week up front. They say all guarantees have been cancelled. And finally, please, Anna, I need to talk to you. It's about more than us now. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I forwarded the financial documents I'd gathered to my lawyer with instructions to hold them securely until needed. If the Caldwells pursued litigation, I would be prepared. When I arrived home to our Beacon Hill brownstone, I hired a moving company to pack my personal belongings. I took only what was unquestionably mine: clothes, jewelry I'd purchased myself, my collection of first edition books, and the artwork I'd acquired before our marriage. Everything else, including the wedding gifts and items purchased jointly, I left behind. I wanted nothing that could tie me to the Caldwells' elaborate web of deceit. 2 days later, the Boston Globe Times published a small item in their society section. Caldwell Investment Group faces inquiry. The article mentioned financial irregularities and questions from investors. While it didn't make front-page news, it was enough to send ripples of speculation through Boston's exclusive social circles. Shawn appeared at my new apartment unannounced 1 week after I returned from Rome. He looked haggard, the polished veneer of privilege replaced by genuine desperation. "You need to come home," he said, when I opened the door. "This has gone far enough. This isn't a negotiating tactic, Shawn. This is divorce." He stepped inside without invitation, running his hands through his disheveled hair. "The SEC is looking into father's accounts. 2 board members have resigned. Mother had to cancel her charity gala because 3 major donors pulled out." "That sounds like a Caldwell family problem," I replied, "not mine." "It's your time's problem if I go down with the ship," he countered. "We're still married. My debts are your debts." I allowed myself a small smile. "Not when I have proof that you deliberately excluded me from financial decisions and hid assets with the intent to defraud me in divorce proceedings. My lawyer assures me that's enough to protect me." His facade cracked completely then. Shawn sank onto my couch, head in his hands. "I never wanted it to be like this." "What did you want, Shawn?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. "To marry me for my event planning skills? To use me to manage your social calendar while you reconnected with Vanessa? To discard me when I was no longer useful?" "It wasn't like that in the beginning," he said quietly. "I did love you. But not enough to stand up to your family, not enough to be honest about your affair." I sat across from him, feeling strangely calm. "When is the baby due?" His head snapped up. "How did you?" 4 months, according to the texts I saw. "Congratulations." A heavy silence fell between us. Outside, rain began to tap against the windows of my new apartment, smaller than our Beacon Hill brownstone, but mine alone, paid for with the proceeds from a business I'd built without Caldwell money or connections. "I'll give you whatever you want," Shawn finally said, his voice barely audible. "Just hand over those documents and sign an NDA. Name your price." That was the moment I realized the Caldwells still didn't understand me at all. After 5 years, they still saw me as someone who could be bought, someone motivated by the same material concerns that drove their shallow existence. "I don't want your money, Shawn. I want my freedom. I want the truth acknowledged." I stood up, indicating our conversation was ending. "The documents stay with my lawyer, unless you try to drag me down with you. The divorce terms are simple. I walk away with what's mine, you with what's yours." "And Vanessa? The baby?" His voice was a whisper. "That's between you and your conscience. I hope you'll be a better husband to her than you were to me." After he left, I stood by the window, watching the rain intensify. The scandal unfolded gradually over the following weeks. The Boston Globe Times ran a more extensive piece on the Caldwell Investment Group's financial irregularities. Longtime clients quietly withdrew their portfolios. Eleanor's position on 3 prestigious charity boards became emeritus rather than active. Vanessa's pregnancy became public knowledge when she was spotted at her obstetrician's office wearing an engagement ring, the timeline making it clear that their relationship had resumed long before our marriage ended. In Boston's high society, infidelity might be tolerated if discreet, but such blatant misconduct, layered with financial malfeasance, violated every unspoken code. My business thrived, despite, or perhaps because of, the scandal. Clients who had once looked down on me now appreciated my discretion and integrity. The story that circulated wasn't about a woman scorned, but about a professional who refused to be used and discarded. 6 months later, I received an invitation that made me laugh out loud when I opened it, a request to bid on planning Eleanor Caldwell's next charity event. Apparently, desperation had finally overcome pride. I declined politely, citing a full schedule. The divorce was finalized without drama. The Caldwells, focused on salvaging their reputation and finances, agreed to my terms without argument. Shawn and Vanessa married quietly, their daughter born 2 weeks later. I sent no gift. On the 1-year anniversary of that night in Rome, I found myself planning another event in Italy, a celebrity wedding on the Amalfi Coast. As I stood on a terrace overlooking the Mediterranean, phone in hand and vendors at my command, I realized something unexpected. I was happy. Not despite the collapse of my marriage, but because of it. The Caldwells had tried to make me feel small, to reduce me to an accessory in their grand narrative. Instead, they had inadvertently freed me to reclaim my own story. In losing what I thought I wanted, I had found what I actually needed, not acceptance from a family determined to reject me, but the courage to reject a life built on appearances. I raised my glass to the setting sun, toasting the missing chair that had shown me exactly where I belonged. Sometimes, life's most painful moments become the turning point for our greatest strength. The missing seat reminds us that dignity is not given, it's reclaimed. When people underestimate you, stay calm, stay strategic, and let your silence be the loudest response. Every betrayal can become the fuel for your rebirth, just as Anna turned humiliation into empowerment. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to USLA 1 Stories, where we share powerful tales of revenge, resilience, and redemption. Your support means everything. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next video.